people, their lives are changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more complaining. People, their lives are changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more.
We're going to continue. I have talked the last few days, and it's not like I'm trying to sell these because you can't buy them anymore. But I created this idea called Apple a Day. Now, you may have seen it in Sky Mall. It was a really big seller in Sky Mall. This would have been in the late 80s, early 90s. Sky Mall, just tons of catalogs. I actually have a scrapbook with the catalogs. Whenever a catalog would come with a picture of it, I would cut it out. And the idea is there are 365 quotations that I find to be particularly inspiring. And they're folded up on little slips of paper so that when you reach in, you get one and it's your piece of paper. One of the things I've always told people is don't put yours back in. That's yours to keep. Today, we are looking at a quotation that you saw me draw randomly yesterday, Apple a Day. And the quotation is, "The journey is the reward." That's a quote from Stephen Jobs. I have read several books about him. I have read his books, and he was a unique person, and we owe a lot to him. One of the things that most people don't realize is that this company was trying to figure out how to cut the cost of animation, because the price of animation is so high when you're looking at 23 to 32 sometimes images in a second. And so often this is farmed out now to third world countries or countries where the pay is a lot less. And there was this company that was trying to figure out how to do it. And they put together a little demo and they took it around to people, and nobody was interested. Nobody thought there was any future in it. And they finally took it and were able to show it to Steve Jobs. Now, the little animation they showed them was of a desk lamp hopping along and then jumping on the logo. So you have all seen that. That's Pixar. Steve Jobs wrote a check to keep Pixar going. He did that several times. One of the things I found interesting was that was where he made his money. He did not become wealthy because of Apple, because of different timing things and everything. When he really became wealthy was because of these early investments into Pixar, which took off and went public. And that's when Steve Jobs got rich. Steve Jobs is a riches to rags to riches story. And I truly believe he is a modern day Divinci. He was the one that in the middle of Napster and everybody sharing music, pirating music, which I have a big issue with personally, because people pirate my book. You can find my books online in PDF format. And that's just not the right thing, because so many people, not just me, but so many people have their hands in a production of something. They all deserve to be compensated. And he came up with this idea of letting people pay for music and convinced many of the major producers and companies to do it, not broadcast companies, but music labels to do it. And that's why we have streaming music. Not only that, Audible, which I love. I looked the other day, I think I have 267 audiobooks now. Another story, just like Pixar. Audible, struggling, trying to develop a platform for audiobooks. And Steve Jobs wrote checks, kept them going. And sure enough, that was another way that he ended up making a lot of money. The quote for today from Steve Jobs is, "The journey is the reward." And that's what we're going to focus on today. The journey is the reward. If you look at Steve Jobs, he had so many amazing things that he accomplished. He was not a great guy in some ways. I mean, he never acknowledged his daughter, Lisa, etc. But he was not a perfect person, but he had so many. It's like, wow, he basically he He and Steve Wozniak came up with the idea for the personal computer. He was the one that came up with the idea of, instead of typing all this complex code to have your computer, came up with what's called a WYSIWYG interface. What's WYSIWYG? What you see is what you get. In other words, that's why we have icons. That's why we have font sizes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, there was the whole John Scully from Pepsi thing coming in and becoming president of Apple, and them forcing jobs out and Jobs coming back in after having created NEXT. And after all of that drama, after you thought maybe he was gone, he gives us the iPhone. He gives us the iPod first. Then he gives us the iPhone and so many, many, many other things. Driven? Probably, yes, very much. Genius? I would say so. And at the same time, a human being just like the rest of us. Steve Jobs' journey may have been bigger and bolder and probably will impact history a lot more than many of us. Speaking of which, somebody the other day told me that I now have a Wikipedia page. I didn't know that. I think that's kind of interesting and kind of cool. And the reason I say that is no matter what your life journey is, whether it's to create ideas in the complaint-free world like I've done, or Steve Jobs, or your job is to be the greatest grandma you can be or the best friend you can be. It's the journey. There's no there. I've quoted this quote so many times from Gertrude Stein. When you get there, there's no there. There's just more journey. Onward and forward. Onward and forward. So I have a confession. I finished watching first season of Ted Lasso last night for the 14th time. And at the very end, one of the things that Jason Sudeikis says, I won't explain the context because I want you to watch the show. And we're 3 weeks away from season 2. Jason Sudeikis just says, on as a coach, tells his team, onward, forward. And I thought that was such simple, powerful advice. When things happen in our lives, one of the things we want to do is to go back. I wish I could go back. Oh, can I go back? I'd like to wave a magic wand. If only, if only, if only. And really, when it comes down to it, the journey continues. Onward, forward. Whatever you're going through right now, go through it. Keep going. The old joke or the old song now. If you're going through hell, keep going. The journey is ultimately the reward. As I get older, and we all do, hopefully, as I look back on my life, I think back on good times, and I think also about things that I have overcome, things that were particularly challenging and difficult. And the fact that my capacity was a lot deeper and broader and stronger than I ever knew. And the only way for me to have known that is to have gone through it, Some of the greatest gifts in my life, and I'm sure in your life too, have come from challenging, difficult situations and from staying with it and being with it and moving through it. And the people who die prematurely, the people who get sick, the people who get cancer in a lot of cases are the people who won't let go of what was and continue the journey onward, forward. One of the podcasts that I really enjoy and I recommend to you, it's been around forever. It's got a huge audience. It's also on NPR. It's called This American Life. Usually very, very inspiring stories. And they were talking, they interviewed and did the story of a woman who, and I won't get this story right, but something along the lines of she was an Olympian and ice skater, and then she had a car accident and ended up not being able to walk. And this literally was everything she had trained for and thought about since she was like her whole life. She didn't know who she was outside of that. And then she could no longer skate. And if I'm not mistaken, she got into equestrian sports, riding and dressage, and ended up coming back and, if I'm not mistaken, became an Olympian again. That's someone who takes the journey and keeps going, even when life throws the things at you that life is going to throw at you. When life throws difficult things to us, one of the things we often tend to do is to think, it only happens to me. Life is singling me out. It's that existential aloneness all of a sudden kicks in. Life is doing this to me. And the thing is, and this is one of the reasons that AA works, because it's done in a group setting and group therapy, is sitting down and listening and going, at least I am not as screwed up as that person. The journey is to move on to the next thing, to take the wisdom, which you gained in what you've gone through. Take the wisdom with you and be the next iteration of who and what you are. I've struggled with that there is no there thing myself for many, many, many years, probably still do. I still have this idea of what Dennis Waitley called Someday Isle. There is an isle in fantasy called Someday Isle you'll never see. Your mortgage is paid and your pay increases, et cetera, et cetera. This idea of finally getting everything in order, physically, relationally, financially, everything. And that's just not life. That's just not life. We do our best. And the idea really ultimately, I've always loved this idea. What if there really is a heaven when you die, and there's the clouds and the gates and the angels and all that kind of thing, the pictures that you've seen, right? And yet when you get there, God runs out and goes, did you have fun? Did you have fun? Did you enjoy the journey? And so many of us get so busy, and because of our negativity bias, get caught up in the things that are not going to bring us happiness, that becomes our focus. And at the end we go, did I have fun? Well, they brought me a lime instead of a lemon in my drink. Come on, lighten up. When we count what is wrong, we'll never run out of things to count, and we'll never be happy. When we count things that are right and going well, we'll never run out of things to count, and we'll always be happy. I forget who it was the other day. One of you commented and said something you were grateful for, and it was just such a simple thing. I remind myself that I'm grateful for this microphone. It makes my voice sound better, etc. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I am grateful that I get to go to Orlando and hang out at Universal Studios. I'm grateful that I have so many of you that I see on a regular basis every single morning. And that's the journey. And there's no there. There's no there. There's only here now. So make the most of it. Enjoy it. Enjoy the journey, because as Steve Jobs said, the journey is the reward. You know, it's interesting as I look at Steve Jobs and as I read all the various things. Debbie says she loves Ted Lasso. I've got a Roy Kent jersey I'm going to be wearing at Universal Studios tomorrow. That's one of the characters from Ted Lasso. Oh, I totally got slipped off the groove here of what I was talking about. And that is that as the journey continues in our life, we begin to realize that it was just moments. It was just moments. Even the bad things, even the time, I think I was in the 8th grade, Johnny Pappas punched me at school or whatever, and I'm standing there and everybody's looking to see if I'm going to hit him back, and I'm too scared. And I just stand there. It was just a moment, and it's over. And it's all part of the journey. Oh, I know what I was going to say. And that is that with Steve Jobs' amazing contributions to the world, I don't know. So I question, and I mean this not in an indicting way, but I wonder how happy he was, how happy he would have said if when he gets to the pearly gates and God says, did you have fun? He goes, man, it was awesome. I can't wait to go again. I say that because I think he's a Buddhist. All right. Because I said I think he's a Buddhist, this is your opportunity to click share, expand our audience, and let people know that you start your day in a positive way and invite them to join us to do the same thing. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go back and read some of your comments and everything. Oh, I am so excited about Ted Lasso. Don't get me talking about Ted Lasso. Speaking of Ted Lasso, did you know that almost all the characters in the show are actual real people? For example, Roy Kent was actually a man named Roy Kern, and his story parallels very much the arc of Roy Kent in the show. And there is a Ted Lasso, or there was, from my understanding. All right, I'll be quiet. Grateful for having my son home again from university, says Leslie. Leslie, do you have tattoos across your face? Or what is that? That's interesting looking. David says another way of saying, loving the pattern you are. Love where you are. Love the you in all you things. Yes, great. Napster, yes, thank you. A low pulse becomes a big flow of energy. Amen to that. My destination in happiness is happiness, I would imagine. And my journey is always rewarding. There we go. Yeah. And you have and continue to make your mark on the world. Thank you, David, very much. Love Ted Lasso. We covered that. I'm going to jump down here a little bit. Modern day Divinci. Yes, I would agree with that. That's the term I have heard for Steve Jobs, and I would totally agree with that. It's interesting because Steve Jobs came up with the WYSIWYG concept, and the Apple computer, very few people had computers at that point, and the Apple and the PC, the IBM, were sort of competing with each other. And what Bill Gates decided to do was just to license it, let everybody build it. And that's one of the reasons there's, from people who have them, were and have been, continue to be some cases, lots of issues with PCs as opposed to Macs. Macs don't tend to have issues. And it's because lots of people got an opportunity to build them, and there's a variety of different standards. Enough about that. You expand when you encounter difficulties. Great. Hey, Sherry says, great quote for today. My son has had a journey in baseball, drafted from high school at 18, played minors for 10 years, sat out for 2 years, tried again, got signed at 30, and then he pitched his second game and tore his Achilles. That was heartbreaking. But what you're saying gives me hope. His journey is not over. Absolutely not. The interesting thing about this, Sherry, is that the woman who I was speaking about, the former Olympian who became an Olympian, is that she just continued to use the skills that got her to that first Olympic experience. In other words, your son can use all of the mental determination. He can use all of the resources that he has had to call up on to have this amazing life and do something even better. He gets to bring the wisdom with him. Remind him that, okay? Love yourself regardless of what you encounter, said David. Awesome. Oh, by the way, don't leave. We got the song of the day coming up, and I've got a fun one. Yes, you're going to like this one. Well, I hope you like them all. Linda Starn says, shared. Thank you very much. Misty says, shared. Good to see you, Misty. And David says, I think Steve Jobs was a perfectionist. He enjoyed the journey, but always had a nose for the future. I agree. I don't really know exactly how happy he was because he was so anal. That's the only thing. He was also a fruitarian who believed that by eating only fruit, you didn't smell, so he didn't bathe or wear shoes. Interesting guy. I was decorated for my 50th, not tattoos. Oh, very cool. Very cool. Nonetheless. Hola, says Jeanette. Good to see you. And Linda says, song of the day. The song of the day. You ready for this? I'm typing it into the chat box. Song of the day. Now, what is the song of the day? Song of the day is when we all, soon as we finish the JumpStart, typing it in, we listen to it. And I do it every single day. So it's a fun little thing. I used to be a DJ on the radio, so I guess it's my way of continuing to do it. I would play it as part of what we're doing here. The challenge is, and I, again, like this, that you cannot play more than just a few seconds of a song on a social media platform because there are spiders that go through and they find it, and you need to pay to use music. It's the right thing to do. Song of the day. You ready for this? We're going to go old school, 1970s. Song of the day is The Voice by the Moody Blues. Listen to the lyrics. If you got an Amazon like I do, I won't say her name, but I've got one that has a screen and it shows the lyrics. Look at the lyrics. If you can find it on YouTube, get the version with the lyrics. Listen to the lyrics of The Voice from the Moody Blues. Awesome, inspiring song. It's all about the voice within. Understand the voice within and feel the change already beginning. Whoa. Won't you tell me again? I really enjoy listening to you. Jeanette, thank you. I enjoy having you here. So grateful for your help with my mental health. Oh, that makes me feel so good, Mary. Tell you what, being with you all helps my mental health. So thank you very much for giving me this outlet. Once again, the song is The Voice. David says he's got Spotify. He'll find it. And saw the Moody Blues in the 80s. I saw the Moody Blues in the 90s. Someone gave me a ticket when I was working in radio, and I called my buddy Miles, and we went. And it was probably one of the best concerts I've ever been to. They just do it. It's just, and you're surprised when you go. It's like Moody Blues. And then you're like, oh, I know that song. Oh, I know that song. I know that song too. Thanks, everybody. Listen, I will be with you tomorrow. I'm not going to be here in the studio. I'm going to be in Orlando getting ready to go to the studio, to the theme park tomorrow morning. So I'll just point and click and we'll get together then. Look forward to it. Remember, at the end of this, we're going to all listen to The Voice by the Moody Blues. Alexa, play The Voice by the Moody Blues.
Here's The Voice by the Moody Blues on Amazon Music.
Enjoy today. Bye-bye.
No more complaining people. Their lives are changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more complaining people. Their lives are changing. We're flying high.